Welcome to Health Matters with Dr. Nelson Bulmash, sponsored by the UI Radio Network at uiradionetwork.org. Catch us on Facebook and Instagram at United Intentions and Twitter at Higher Intention. Look for us on 99.1 FM, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, and many more. Over the next hour, we'll introduce you to some fascinating people and engaging discussions that may provide you with answers to assist in revolutionizing your own personal health. And now, here's Dr. Nelson.
I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You're listening to Health Matters on the United Intentions Media Network. For those of you right here in my hometown, Atlanta, Georgia, catching the show on Talk 10 FM or WDJY FM 99.1, or those of you who are catching the show in Kentucky on WMTA 107.3 AM, welcome. It's great to have you joining us. And for the rest of my friends, family, and followers who are joining us all across the known universe on all the major social media platforms, it's a pleasure. Know that I very, very deeply appreciate you listening and following, giving me all the love and support that you do. I have a really, really special show today because we're going to be discussing some things that, quite frankly, are rarely addressed until you're forced to. And I'm talking about grief and grieving. But before we do that, I've got some messages that I want to share with you. The first is, folks, we now have our own media app. And you can follow us at any time, 24/7, by going to www.unitedmediaapp.com. Once again, that's uimediaapp.com. Don't leave now, but you are welcome as soon as the show is over with to download that app so that you can catch this show and many other great shows. All right, we would love to hear from you. My show, Health Matters, is designed to discuss the very, very best in health, inspiration, and spirituality. I'm a chiropractor, a naturopath, and a nutritionist, and I am here to bring you amazing guests and information that is user-friendly and that can change your life. So please join us and share our show with as many people as you can. Secondly, connect with us online. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as United Intentions and Higher Intentions on Twitter. Now, some really important news here. We're going to the big town. We're going to LA this weekend. We have actually 3 big events. The United Intentions Foundation, which is what we represent, will be going to Los Angeles this weekend for the City Gala. This is very, very important because it's a charity benefit where celebrities donate money to their favorite charities. United Intentions Foundation is one of the beneficiaries, and we're excited to have such an amazing opportunity. For more information, please join us at www.citygala.org. And lastly, my friends Shannon McVeigh and Tim Ray are on this Thursday. They are on Awaken Atlanta. It's an amazing show. Help support them. Help support us. Join us this I know some of you are thinking, Nelson, don't say it, but yes, I'm going to say it this Thursday at 6 a.m. I know lots of you are sleeping, but hey, the show goes for a little while, so wake up and at least join us for part of it. All right, thank you so much. Now for the main event, my friend and colleague here, Tamara Sutton. Tamara Sutton is a grief coach, which we're going to explore today. I don't have a lot of familiarity with that. And she's also a life coach. She has written an amazing book that was very, very inspiring. I have it here as a matter of fact. It is called Demetrius, My Gift of Life. It was published in 2004. You're going to want to read it. And the reason you're going to want to read it is because we all, as I mentioned, have people who die. We're all going to die. And it's important to be able to love someone as deeply as possible and to be able to grieve them. Grieving is natural. But you want to be able to grieve the loss of someone you love, someone who is dear to you, and you want to be able to still remain in life. Some of us are parents, some of us are doctors, some of us have all kinds of jobs that are very important to not only the person doing them, but to the community, to the people hiring them, and to the world. We all have an integral role in this world, and so it's very, very important for us to be able to function. And we're going to talk about how you can grieve naturally and effectively and still remain an integral part of the working world. Okay? So let me tell you a little bit about Tamara. She's an amazing woman. Tamara Sutton was loving life and raising 5 remarkable kids until in 1996, her oldest son, Demetrius, died. He was 23 years old. With a devastating shift such as this, it can be a challenge to even put on your shoes. And I remember this when my own father died. It was like I remember trying to get dressed, and it was sometimes nearly impossible. But with her determination, Tamara knew that she had to discover the ways and means to guide her family through this epic storm of theirs. For the next 8 years, she did just that and journaled the entire process. In 2004, her book, Demetrius, My Gift of Life, was published. That book became a vehicle of conversation as Tamara began giving interviews on TV, radio, and speaking to anyone ready to listen. One of those interviews became the suicide prevention radio program reaching northern Illinois and Chicago. For that effort, Tamara's team received the Silver Dome Broadcasting Award for Best Public Affairs Programming in Talk Radio for 2 years in a row. Big congratulations to you. With firsthand knowledge of understanding how to help children grieve, Tamara co-founded a nonprofit healing center for grieving children in one of my favorite cities in the world, Ann Arbor, Michigan. 11 years later, Ellie's Place continues to serve children between 3 and 21 years of age while they're going through the crisis of losing a significant other. Her approach to coaching is unique and intuitive in a very safe way. Her approach is to be here now. Primarily by phone, she walks along with you through your grief, and you learn to practice leaning in, becoming familiar with it, naming it, watching for it, and noticing that as time passes, you're growing deeper and stronger than you ever thought possible. Being present with your grief allows you to notice the gifts all around you. She mentions that if God said to me, I will give him back to you, but you must give back everything you have learned, I would have to say no, no thank you. What I know now are gifts that he has given me. That's amazing. And you really have to think about that when it's funny, Tamara, by the way, welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Much.
You're so welcome.
I'm so happy to be here.
Your role is so important, and I'm so impressed with who you are. I'm so impressed with your passion and your commitment to be a force in the world to help people recover from what often is the most devastating thing that one will ever go through in their life.
Yes.
So I want to make a quick comment here before I ask you my first question. I had to read this last statement over and over again because I thought, what would I do? I know you're a very deeply loving person. I gathered that from speaking to you the number of times we have. And I thought, the statement, if God said to me, I'll give him back to you, but you must give back everything you learned. I get it, because you have traveled such a profound path. You're so wise, and you have suffered so deeply and so greatly that what you have learned is invaluable. And what got me through this, what got me through your response, was that it made me realize that you have transcended yourself and even the love for your son so that you could be there for the world. And when I really got that, I went, whoa.
Thank you.
Oh my God, she has transcended and the love for a son is, I know, I have a son. I can't express the love I have for him. So for you to,
nothing like it.
Yeah, for you to basically say, this is the gift he gave me. I'm going to use this to help all others in the world who are ready to hear what I have to offer.
Yes.
To overcome, to manage their grief, and to return effectively to society. It really touched me. I want you to know that. As did your book, and we're going to talk about that.
Thank you. Love to.
Yeah, you bet. So, Tamara, I want to ask you something. We, of course, all know what a life coach is. Forgive me. I've never heard of a grieving coach. Tell me a little bit about what that is.
Neither have I.
Did you create this position?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I've been in healthcare for over 30 years, and I've never heard of a grieving coach. Tell me what that is.
Yes. There's a specific reason for this, because I'm not a therapist.
Okay.
We look at your past.
Right.
And tie that in because it makes you who you are.
Right.
And definitely dictates your responses and your perceptions. At the same time, that you've now had this impact in your life, and you aren't that person anymore.
Yes. Yes.
And the hardest thing of all is helping people to understand that you have to, in essence, be willing to lay that person that you used to be aside. And when you do that, you allow all of this to teach you, to learn from, to grow from. And you have to recognize at some point, if you're willing to lean into this, and I promise you, the only way to get through grief in the best possible healthy way and find joy on the other side of it is to lean in hard. So when those feelings come up, I, as a grief coach, I get on this boat with you. So you have to picture this. You are in an epic storm. It's a perfect storm. And you're on the tiniest boat you can possibly imagine. So you're bobbing in it. Well, I'm not afraid of that boat. I've already been there. I've already found my joy on the other side of it. So what I do is I climb on that boat with you. I make sure you've got a life preserver on, and that's your connection to me for a while, because you're going to learn to swim, and you're going to learn when that wave starts coming to crash over you, and it does at the oddest times for the strangest reasons, and you can't figure it out at the time. When it starts to crash over, you get so that you start recognizing, oh, I feel you. I feel it coming. Okay. And you will know exactly what to do as that's happening. When the wave crashes over, you're going to learn how to take deeper and deeper breaths. And you've learned this in your experience. That the first couple of months after Demetrius died, I could hear myself. I was gasping for air and gulping air and would realize in that moment, I haven't been breathing. I don't even remember the last time I took a breath. Right. And so I had to really consciously start paying attention to the fact that I have to breathe. And that's powerful stuff. So the more you breathe, the longer you can hold your breath under this wave that crashes over.
So it's like what you're suggesting is you're in a dinghy with this person who's suffering through hurricane type waves and gale forces.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Wow.
And it comes from all directions.
It comes from all directions. You know, it's funny you said that. I remember one day I was at LA Fitness. This was 3 years after my father died. 3 years. And believe me when I tell you, I'm that man that when something like this happens, I will face it directly and had faced it and done a lot of processing work with it. And still a song came on the radio, a song from the 70s. It was Brandy. And I remember I had this amazing situation occur. We were coming home from my son's football game a few years before. My son was an amazing football player. And of all things, a song called Brandy that came out by Looking Glass in the 1970s. And all of a sudden, I started to sing. I don't have a good voice, but all of a sudden, my dad looked at me and he started to sing with me. And I said, "Dad, you like the song Brandy?" He said, "Are you kidding me? It was one of the best songs of the early 1970s. I love that song." And we sang it together. Now, did we sing? Did we sound good? No. We're not going to get a record label to support us necessarily.
Who's keeping track?
But so all of a sudden, here I am working out like a fiend in LA Fitness, and the song came on, and I was overwhelmed with such grief. I burst out crying in the middle of my workout. And I thought, how in the world can this possibly be? Yes. And I want to talk about that with you today. All right? Can we do that?
Oh, yeah.
So let's just dive into this.
Yes, we're in it.
You know, Tamara, I want to share some things with you. I believe that when you lead a life that has some level of consciousness, that the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, nature, assembles things, if you will, right? So that here I am with you, the queen of coaching of grief. And as you know this, you and I had spoken about this a couple weeks ago, I had a family member pass. Last week, I wished somebody happy birthday on Facebook, and they had passed. And a friend sent me a very sweet message and said, I'm terribly sorry. Evidently, somehow you missed the message that Denise had died, and I'm terribly sorry about that. Shocking. I couldn't believe it was the end of the day. I was emotionally drained from work. And then here we are today. You're on my show. I get a message from a friend of mine, a friend that I grew up with, that I lifted with, had died in December. And once again, I'm not part of the immediate family. I've been gone from Flint, Michigan for quite a while. So here you are sitting in the Queen's throne right here, and we're discussing grieving. So this is so perfect. Listen, we got to take a quick break. Folks, I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You're listening to Health Matters. My guest is Tamara Sutton. We'll be right back.
The United Intention Foundation is proud to announce that we're beneficiaries for City Gala, a foundation that supports humanitarian, philanthropic, and educational efforts. The City Gala is produced for the purpose of promoting equality, assisting in access to higher education, funding mentorship, entrepreneurship programs. The Gala also pushes influential individuals to become activists and face the challenges of current events. We've been fortunate enough to be selected as one of the foundations slated to raise money, garner support, influential and remarkable people. To get involved, visit www.citygala.org and learn about this wonderful foundation. You can also join their mastermind club and have access to top executives and influencers from different industries to help you network and build your brand and business. We're honored to be a part of City Gala, and we hope you join the journey of success with us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to Health Matters. My guest today is Tamara Sutton, and we're talking about a very, very difficult subject matter, something that we should all be prepared for, and unfortunately, all too frequently are not prepared for in any way, and that is the process of grieving after a loved one dies. Tamara, I'd mentioned to you that it was so perfect that you're here right now. I'd mentioned that a couple weeks ago, I lost a family member. And last week I had a friend that I didn't know had passed. She lives in London, England. We didn't talk that often, mostly through Facebook. And another friend, after I wished her a happy birthday, had gotten a hold of me and said, Nelson, I'm terribly sorry. Evidently you don't know that our friend Denise has passed. And then today, of all things, it's still in a little bit of a case of shock that a friend of mine who was an extraordinary man, an extraordinary lifter. He was a legend. He was a national lifting champion. And the one thing I do want to mention about him and his family, his name was Patrick Haley, is that his mother and father owned an incredible restaurant in Flint, Michigan. And the reason I want to mention them is because you don't have a lot of people like this around anymore. They fed anyone who needed food. They had the reputation, if you couldn't afford food, they would feed you.
Oh my gosh.
And Patrick was their son, and he was equal to that measure. He was an extraordinary man, and he has left this world and gone to the next, and I got that shocking news today. I had a lot of respect for him. How do you go about, now, even though, we hadn't talked much other than through Facebook over the last years, he still meant something to me. I had regard for him. Let's talk about your process. What's unique about your process, and how can someone like me use your information to help me grieve more successfully so that I can be more effective in the world?
Absolutely. Probably the biggest tool that we have and that you can use is journaling.
Okay.
The book. Now, everything that is in this book, it is written in a timeline so that you can see how I was feeling at 9 o'clock that morning, and you can see that I was feeling, so much better and relieved at 1 in the afternoon, and at 6 o'clock, I'm a wreck.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting how it cycles through the day?
Yes.
You wake up and
Yes.
How am I going to start this day? And then somehow you get going, and then you crash again at night.
Yes.
Interesting cycle.
Yeah. It's a tool, and it serves you forever.
Okay.
And one of the really important reasons why it serves you and how it serves you is that if you are as intricate in your writing as you can possibly be descriptive. It wasn't just a blue sky day. It was the bluest day you had ever seen,
Right.
or full of clouds.
So you're really connecting with the details.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because it brings it up out of you. You have to put in some effort to choose exactly the right word for you, and that's one of the things that we do in our work, is finding the right words for you.
Right.
If you can't describe it and you can't tell your story.
That's so interesting, because one of the first things I noted when I read your book, first of all, how effectively you chronicled your process. Secondly, you, in some cases, it was like you were waxing on poetically. The detail and the beauty of your writing was...
It's exactly the way it came out of me.
Wow. Well,
It's exactly the way it
you
came
have
out.
a serious inner poet.
But it was 18 steno books.
Wow.
Both sides of the page.
Yeah.
Longhand. I have the worst handwriting on the planet.
Well, maybe not. I might be ahead of you, but...
But
Yeah.
it got the trick done.
Yes.
And so I just extracted from that which is the book, and it's a
Right.
really great demonstration of just how you can do this, and it's effective. But the most important thing was 6 months down the line, and I'm a wreck again in a moment. I'm thinking, why am I still here? What's wrong with me that I'm not getting past this or through this or letting this person go?
And Tamara, forgive me. I want to be clear. When you say, why am I still here? You mean, why do you still feel stuck?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank
exactly.
you so much. Okay.
And you can go back in your journal and look through it, which you should do periodically,
Right.
because what you're going to see is, oh, I'm not there anymore. My socks are the same color now.
Oh, got it. So in other words, the detail's critical
Yeah.
for many reasons, but one of which is when you go back and you look at the chronicling of your path, of your journey, of your process,
Exactly.
you see that there's more coherency. You're
Yes.
more together. You're
Yes.
suddenly your
You
socks
see
match.
what a wreck you are.
Yeah.
The first page of this book is 2 sentences.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did that, but it was 45 minutes after they had told me that my son had killed himself.
Wow.
And I don't know why I did this. I had to get pen, I had to get paper, and I just wrote whatever I could, and I
Right.
knew it was going to be really important.
Well, would you agree with me if I made this statement? Would you find this accurate? I really believe that some of us are brought here to do very, very specific missions.
Yeah,
And you do too. After reading your book, I'm deeply, deeply sorry. It was difficult for me to read your book. It was very beautifully written, and it was really powerful and effective, by the way, for me to read how much disturbance there were, how much distortion there was. I could tell in your life, in your nervous system, in your sense of being, how difficult it was for you to make dinner for the kids and to just get dressed and function in the world, and then where you ended up. That was very, very powerful for me. What was hard for me is you're such a good writer that I felt stuck with you. And it was really important for me to finish the book, because by the time I got to the end of your book, I felt unstuck. So you freed me emotionally and spiritually, so thank you for that.
I love hearing that. Thank you.
It was very, very important to me. Death is an interesting thing, Tamara, because it brings up things that you would never imagine are hooked up together.
Yes.
Like, for example, one of the things you did, unwittingly, of course, because you don't know me that well, is that when I read this, it helped me reprocess the death of my father.
Yes.
So thank you for that gift that you gave me before you even knew you gave it to
So
me.
for your use, we grieve at different stages in our lives. When you become,
Yes.
became a father, when you become a grandparent,
Right.
it revisits all over again. My youngest daughter was 9, when Demetrius died, and,
Wow.
and she lost her brother, and she had profound thoughts and discussions with me about him. All of my kids did. They all had these really incredible perceptions.
Yes.
And I still am in awe of them. They're the most amazing people I know, of course.
Yeah. I love that you say that, by the way.
They are.
Yeah. What a great mom.
However, it is so I don't want to say it's important for us to look at the moment with a depth and capture it. As time goes on, I noticed that my 9-year-old, when she was 16, grieved again in a whole nother way. And she's, we grieve in stages. It comes back.
Yes.
Guess what, people? The fact that it hits you so deeply, that is the depth of your love for them.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. So it's a
That's
reflection
how much you love
of how
them.
much
So
you love
how
them.
do you how would you ever want to push that away?
Yeah.
My thought is, and what I work with you on, is take it and pull it close and embrace, more than embrace, embody that love that you hold for that person. You might be the only person in the world that is holding that love for them.
That's beautiful.
And imagine what they're doing with it in their
Beautiful.
work, right?
Beautiful. So I'm curious about something because your whole family went through this.
Yes.
Do you still continue to process as a family when you get together, or when you speak to your kids, and even individually?
You know, when Demetrius died, I knew that this was not for nothing. I knew that this was going to be the most significant thing that would ever happen in our lives.
Right.
And I was not going to let it be for nothing. So we did grieve together. But mostly what we did is we seized the moment in those pivotal moments. Okay.
Holidays, for example.
Yes.
Birthdays.
Yes.
Christmas. In other words, significant holidays where suddenly his presence is felt as an absence.
Yes. So obviously, and the more you try to make it not so, the more you try to ignore it,
the more it jumps on you.
The more it's there, and you will exhaust yourself in trying to not be there with your grief.
Right.
This is the hardest work you will ever do in your life.
So you can't, this isn't something you can fight like a foe. It's something you have to somehow make as your ally.
Yes. And if you do this on a regular basis, if you're journaling, if you can find a coach or hopefully get to me, the work with me is not that lengthy. I give you tools in a very, very short period of time that you can utilize.
Right.
Then you can call me if there's a really significant moment that, we need to brush up, or we need to revisit, or we need to look at this new dimension. And we do that. Yeah, but mostly you're at the steering wheel.
I want to recognize you for something. I had, and I'm going to use the word flaked out. I wasn't flaked out. I was distraught. And I owed you a phone call. And as you remember, I didn't call you back, and I felt very badly about that. But I was extremely distracted by not only the death of a family member, but my mother, as you know, is in stage 4 cancer and not doing well.
I didn't.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
I'm grieving the eventual loss already of my mother, who's not doing great, and then of course another family member. And so it brings up all of these issues. Like, even though my mother hasn't died, it brought up these issues of, wow, now my mother and father will both be gone.
Yes.
I won't hear the stories, the epic stories of their incredible pasts, right? And I won't have anybody to lock down the legacy of our family line. Like those are the kinds of things you miss. They're priceless, right?
Yes.
So tell me this. So you're a big fan, and I get the importance of that, particularly after having read your book of journaling. What are some of the other tools that you use?
Okay, so this book actually opened doors in ways that I couldn't have imagined. I gave the manuscript to a friend of mine, said, here, just read this. I want to know what you think of it. There's something here.
Right.
She did. She brought it back the next day, actually the next morning, to me and said, I think you need to do something with this. She said, I am completely revamping my parenting techniques.
Wow.
That's what she got out of it. Her mom had died when she was in early 20s.
Right.
And I know that impacted her. But the fact that she decided, so powerfully, I got to look at a different way of parenting.
Listen, and by the way, I can't believe I actually forgot to acknowledge you. I set this up to acknowledge you, and then I forgot. What I wanted the listening audience and viewing audience to know is when my family member died, you were right there on the phone. Call me, Nelson. Let's process it. And so forgive me.
Timing.
But she was right there for me, Nelson. I'm here for you. Let's talk. Let me help you process this. I really respect that. I'm that person who doesn't expect anything from people. So when somebody delivers unconditional love, it really touches me. Folks, listen, I can't believe how fast this show is going. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmesh. My guest is Tamara Sutton. We're talking about how to effectively grieve so that you can honor the people that you love and have lost and can do so effectively, so you can be formidable as a parent or as whatever role you play in the world. We'll be right back.
Download the UI Media Smart app at uimediaapp.com to watch and listen to all your favorite shows anytime from anywhere in the world. Shows that enrich, entertain, educate, and feeds the conscious cells throughout your body. We bring you never heard before topics in health, inspiration, music, psychics, numerology, current affairs, controversies, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.uimediaapp.com and start raising your frequency now. Download the UI Media.
This is Tim.
And Maria from UI Media Network.
We both know what it's like to own your own business and needing to grow.
Building brand awareness, maximizing your visibility in the community, and reaching new customers is essential in keeping the doors open.
So in the spirit of 2019, we want to offer you a very special price at 50% off for commercial of your own.
So please call now and get on the calendar to get your commercial going for the new year.
So call UI Media Network at 678-495-4345. That's 678-495-4345.
Thank you, everyone. Once again, I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You're listening to Health Matters, and we're talking today about how to grieve so that when someone you love is lost, that you can love them but not be crippled by their passing. My guest is Tamara Sutton. Tamara, I have a question for you. Let's talk about what you actually can do. Once again, I mentioned to you in one of our discussions that when my father died, it was so monumental for me, and I can't even imagine you losing a son. But when my father died, it shattered me. It's hard for me to even talk about this. Yes. How do you get through it? What do you do? I know you said journaling. Yes. What else?
Baby steps.
Okay, baby steps.
Simplify your life in every way you possibly can. Some things you can't, and I that is a given. But in any way that you can, holidays are coming. You need to give yourself extra care. Pace yourself.
Excellent.
If Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you religiously observe is generally at your house, give it up. Give it to somebody else.
Okay, so you change the background, you change the scenery, you change the location.
Yes.
Pattern interrupt. Okay.
Normally you head this committee, or you drive the kids to school every single day, or whatever it is. If there's any possibility of softening your jobs and your expectations, do it, and do it for a couple of months if you can.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I want to share something with you. In Judaism, we light what's called a yahrzeit candle, which is a memorial candle. And so every year on the death of our loved one, we light this candle that burns for 24 hours. And it's just beautiful, because the flame helps you focus on things like the purity of your love, the purity of your connection. And that eternal light. I love that.
Beautiful symbol.
Beautiful, beautiful symbol. Thank you. And I noticed that every year I start to get grumpy. I start to get really edgy.
Yep.
And finally, as more and more years went by, I went, Nelson, you're missing your dad. You're being, you're being strident with people because you're missing the man that you lost, your father.
Yes. So rather than thinking, what's wrong with me? What's happening?
Yeah. So identify.
What's the date? For months and months and months, I would be exhausted on Tuesdays.
Is that the day your son passed?
It took me a while to figure it out.
Yeah. Same with me. Same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was just, I finally asked myself the question. That's how I've learned all of this, to do it with you. Because I what's happening? What
Yeah,
is
why
it
do I
about
hate
a
Tuesdays?
Tuesday?
Right.
Yes, Tuesday was
Yeah.
the day that we were told
Yeah.
that he had died,
Wow.
and
Wow.
everything changed on a dime on that moment.
So I'm guessing, what I'm hearing is that it might even be a good idea to talk to some of your extended family members, and maybe even those who are directly affected, and
Yeah.
friends who really love you, and say, hey, look, just so you know, I'm coming up now within 30 days of the death
Yes.
of my son, my father. Could you love and nurture me a little bit more? Could you help me along? Because this is a
That's
really,
it.
yeah.
Yes.
I notice now I catch myself.
Yeah.
Now I remind myself, oh, okay. Like my dad and I love July 4th. So I used to take him to a place where it would be removed from the masses because he became very introverted. He was an extraordinarily brilliant man. He didn't like to be in crowds. He didn't see well.
Yeah.
He didn't hear that well. And so it was a little intimidating, I think, to be in big crowds with people. And so I used to sneak him away to the parking ramp near Kennesaw Hospital. And when we first did it, there was almost nobody up there. And I'd park my vehicle and I'd say, Dad, watch over the trees, and we'd watch the fireworks. And then as soon as they ended, we'd escape, and we'd be without all the, all the rush of everybody, all the thousands and thousands of people trying to escape. And we loved that so much. So one of my favorite holidays,
Great memory.
became sort of for some years destroyed. Now I go back to loving it, but I couldn't even, I didn't watch fireworks for years because it was so painful to think of the joy that had been taken from me. As I used to stare up at the fireworks and look at my dad smile because he loved him so much.
Yeah.
Right?
Right,
So,
right.
so I have changed that, and I realize now, Nelson, get ready. You're going to have emotion come up related to this, and that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
Prepare yourself for that. Do things to get you out of that context, so you're doing a pattern interrupt that disrupts that really strong connection, so you can have different outcomes.
Yes. And give yourself room.
Yeah,
Give
beautiful.
yourself, moments to just be still and to think about it, and, light that candle, and, or any other thing that you want to do that brings you to more of a focus.
Yes.
And be in that moment.
Right.
Most people are running from it. If you can move into it and just be still, it actually alleviates a lot of the pain that you would be feeling. The connection is more pure, and there is joy on the other side of this if you do these different things, and that's what the book has in it. Lots and lots and lots of those.
Lots of successes.
Yeah.
I want to say something here because you really brought two things to my attention. One is that what you said is a little counterintuitive initially, and that is take time to be still. We don't want to be still because it's too hard to deal with the emotions and what might come up. Exactly.
Yeah.
However, if you do, you get a continued much deeper level of processing.
Yes.
And then suddenly what happens is my second point, which is my father in his passing turned the mantle over, if you will, to me as a son. And it tremendously inspired me to become a much better man and a much better doctor, because he was a doctor. So I have used him as leverage to dramatically improve the quality of who I am as a man in the world, a man as a father, a man as a friend, and as a doctor.
What a beautiful tribute.
Yeah, so that's how I leverage his death.
Yes. And that's why I named the book what I did, Demetrius, My Gift of Life. I gave him life. In reality, he gave me life. My children, from that moment on, don't go out the door without us hugging and kissing. And if there's anything that we have to say, we say it on the spot. We don't hold back. We're careful, of course, about, just tempering, but at the same time, it's really, really important and that's one of the things that I also in my coaching is I suggest to people that, especially if people are terminal, and you're dealing with someone, a loved one, that, is going on to the next step.
Right? Yes.
Say it.
Yeah.
Tell them that you love them. Or tell them, I'm really sorry.
I tell my mother, who is, I don't know how much longer she'll be in the world. There's no way to know. But I have looked at her many times and said, Mom, you were the most amazing mother I could have ever had.
Yes. Yes. And there's healing in that for her.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about strategy specifically. That's one of mine, so that I can have peace when my mom leaves the world, that I know that she knew how inspired I was by her, how much I loved her, There will be no question about that when she leaves. What are some things that you can do, if you will, Tamara, beforehand? Meaning, before somebody dies, what are some of the things to help you process their death more effectively?
The first thing you can do is be with them.
So be present with them.
Oh, it's hard work.
Yes, it's very hard work.
It's the greatest act of love, I think. What a gift to be with that person and be willing to be with that person without begrudging, without, your stuff.
Yes.
But coming into that room, okay, so this is a really great way to put this. A really good friend of mine, I called her one night and just setting up an appointment for the next day. And I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, my dog is dying.
Right.
And she said, "And what am I going to do without him?" And, he's such a source for me.
Oh,
and
sure. Family member.
And I just feel, sick about this, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know, how am I supposed to think about this? And I said, I'm going to that's all true. Stop 1 second. What's Basil doing right now? She said, he's laying right here. He's panting.
Panting.
I said, this is not your moment. This is his moment.
Excellent.
This is his moment.
Be present with
him. I want
him
you
right
to
now.
fully engage with Basil right
Love it.
now. I want you to remember all those times he's chasing after you, and you're throwing the frisbee, and you're on the beach, and you're, playing the games and hide and seek and feeding him, and when he'd jump into bed with you at night, and all those moments. Think of those right now while you're stroking him and talking to him and just being with him. It's the greatest gift. And let him make his transition.
Right.
Then it's your turn.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
And people too.
People sometimes give me a little laugh of confusion when I say what I'm going to tell you right now. But one of the greatest losses of my life was when I lost my dog.
Yes.
I had a Doberman that was 135 to 145 pounds. He protected the entire family. No one ever broke into our house. Everybody knew you do not want to go in there. There is a very big beast in that house. He protected my dad as he walked near a park where they did dog fighting. And he didn't want to, but it was one of those situations where we had a very affluent area on one side of the park and a ghetto on the other side. And the park, of course, was a line of demarcation. And sometimes they had dog fighting and criminal activity in the park. And all the years that my dad walked, everybody looked at him and said, "That is a beast. Yeah. We are not getting anywhere near you." He was excuse me. My dad looked so formidable walking her and my other Doberman that whole basketball games would stop and look at him and go, "Oh my God." Can you imagine 145 pound? And she wasn't,
that's a presence.
that she was you would pet her here. The vet said that she looked like a Great Dane in size, but she was a Doberman, largest they'd ever seen. And when she died, I couldn't get another dog until 3 years ago when my kids gave me a dog. That was the first time I got another dog. It hit me that I just didn't know how to handle the grieving of her loss.
Yes.
And so, we want to, everybody in my family laughs at me, "Dad, stop calling your dog your son. He's not your son. Reese is your son." But, my dog occurs to me like my boy, so to speak. Does that make sense? I know that sounds silly if you're not a dog lover, but I so appreciate you indicating you got to be present with them. And then when they finally pass, you give them the gift of your presence and love, and then it's your turn to go through the process. That's beautiful.
Yes, very well.
See, you're already coaching me. I'm getting it.
I can't turn it off.
You're so powerful at this that it's I think it oozes out of you. I'm getting these distinctions just in your presence. What other things what other jewels do you have that can help somebody, whether it be processing somebody they just lost or the eventuality that someone's going to lose someone?
One of the things that, and I don't know if this is the time to talk about it, but it's coming to mind now, so it must be. The thing about death and loss is that it causes us to introspect, to take another look at our lives.
Okay.
And maybe to assess.
Can we hold that thought?
Yes.
I'm interrupting you. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
We've got to take our third commercial break.
I'll be back.
Tamara, you'll be back. We'll be back. You're listening to Health Matters. We'll be right back. My guest is Tamara Sutton. We're talking about how to learn to effectively grieve the loss of a loved one.
Yes.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Amy Dayries, a general and integrative dentist in Roswell, Georgia, and I'm also a spokesperson for the American Dental Association. You know, as a dentist, I tell my patients that the mouth is the window to one's overall health, just as the eyes are the window to one's soul. After working in general dentistry for the last 25 years, it has become my desire to offer good health resource information to everyone around me, empowering members of the public to become their best, healthiest selves. The Whole Healing Radio Show features practitioners from dentistry, healthcare, and nutrition about the cutting-edge techniques available. Together, my guests and I will show you how to implement lifestyle changes, achieve your personal goals for health, and heal the parts of you that may have been forgotten. When your health is intact, you can go on to manifest your ultimate dreams. Become the best version of yourself. Join me, Dr. Amy Dayries, on the Whole Healing Radio Show to learn how.
Hello again. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You're listening to Health Matters, and my amazing guest today is the incredible Tamara Sutton, and we're talking about how to learn to effectively grieve. So, Tamara, I'm sorry I had to interrupt you. I'm so apologetic. Our sponsors have to have their time, if you will. So we were talking about some other things that would be helpful for people to process the eventuality of somebody's death, or if you will, if somebody has just died. Like I found out today that somebody had just died completely out of the blue, picked up my phone, turned it on, boom, there's a message that a friend that I'd known for many years had passed. Any other little tidbits that would be wonderful and welcoming to share with people?
Yes, there are lots.
You were talking about that you weren't sure it was time to talk about something, and then all of a sudden we got interrupted.
Right, about if there's a diagnosis, if there's a transition that is in place, and someone that you know is in the process of dying, that there are things that you can do, but you have to step outside of yourself sometimes and give them the right of way, so to speak.
Talk a little bit more about that.
Because this is the most sacred moment in their lives. I think that the moment of birth is sacred when you arrive.
Yes.
And the moment when you transition out is also sacred. And I had the privilege of watching my mom, being with my mom when she was transitioning. And all the boys had left the room. They knew it was getting close. Excuse me. And I didn't know why it was taking so long. That had occurred to me. I called a friend of mine and I said, you know, she seems like she's really, really close, but she's just
hanging on.
Just, you know, not getting there. And my friend said to me, there's something left unsaid.
Beautiful.
And I needed that. I needed that nudge to me to shift myself.
Yes.
And I went to my mom. I pulled up a chair close and tight, and I laid down pretty much, my torso was on the bed right next to her ear. And I am so grateful for this moment and grateful to my friend for bringing me back to the presence of the moment.
Got it. Okay.
I whispered in her ear and I said, Mom, you've been a remarkable person in this world. You've given so much to so many people. But I want you to know that you have nothing to be sorry for. I know what you might regret.
Yes.
And I forgive you. And I love you so for being the mom that you were to me.
Wow. So you gave her permission to be free from
for
any sins of the past,
us.
if you will.
Yes.
And so in doing so, you freed you and her.
Yes,
wow.
both of us.
So you both had
in
closure.
an instant. I have such chills. And then took a breath and said, I am so sorry for the time that I wasted. And I will always regret that. But I know you forgive me. And I love you so.
Wow.
And I'll see you soon. Because she's all around me. I feel her float by. And,
Love it.
every time I
Beautiful.
hear Sinatra,
Right.
right, I'm singing and dancing. I was her backup chick.
Fantastic. What a
Yeah,
great
pounding on the keys is
Yeah,
only
so
she could
beautiful.
do. And yeah, so that was a really, really powerful moment. And I sat up, I looked at her breathing changed completely, and I said, I think we're done here. I'm going to go call my brother. And just then my dad and my other brother came into the room, and I said, she's resting, and I'll be back in a few minutes. I left the room, and as I left the room, she breathed her last breath. I wasn't there for it. Didn't matter.
You didn't need to be. You were complete.
I was complete.
Wow, what a
Yes.
powerful story.
Yes.
I want to ask you something that's very difficult, and that is, how do you help children grieve?
Oh, good one.
Can we chat about that for a
Yes.
few minutes?
Let's. Yes. Oh, children. Wow.
And here's where I'm coming
It's
from.
big.
You and I've been around the block a few times. What do you do with a child that might be 5, 6, 7, 10, 12?
Yes.
In other words, not long enough in the world
Right.
to be prepared to have skills for handling the death
Right.
of a parent, for example. How do you
Yes.
address that?
You listen to them. You talk about it and be honest with them to a degree. And if you know this child, you pretty much know what they're capable of,
Right.
of taking on. You ought to know that, that you don't want to talk to them as if they're an adult. But here's the thing. When, this is interesting, 2 years before Demetrius died, I had a full life. We had, we were very, very comfortable, successful. My husband was a chiropractor, ex-husband, chiropractor.
I
In
missed that.
Lansing.
I didn't know that.
We'll talk.
Okay, we'll talk.
So, yes, and life was really good, and I felt so blessed, and I wanted to give back in some way. And I found Ellie's place in Lansing, and I decided to volunteer, and I had 13 3 to 6-year-olds, 18 3 to 6-year-olds
18.
in my group. Had a couple other adults.
Right.
We were still just kind of figuring it out by the seat of our pants, but what we figured out was that they need language to tell their story.
Beautiful.
You can tell your story. Your girlfriend or boyfriend will call you and want to talk. How are you doing? People will ask. Nobody talks to the kids. Nobody listens to the kids.
That's why I asked the
because
question.
they're just sitting over here playing with, something, or they're, in the TV. It's happening for them too.
Right.
Infants know what's going on.
Wow.
And they will be fussier. So here comes a good one. I walk past my daughter's bedroom. She's 9 years old. And I look in. She's having a full-blown fit on the floor. This kid that always knows what to say. I walked in and I said, Allie, what's happening? And she said, I can't get this knot out of my shoe. Doesn't this shoe know I can't do this right now. I can't do this right now.
Right.
I picked her up. I pulled her into my lap, which is not easy to do with a 9-year-old.
Yes.
Oh, lanky girl. And I said, would this be a problem if Demetrius hadn't died? And instantly her body went just relaxed. This massive breath came out of her. She melted into me, and she said, no, I always have patience getting the knots out of my shoes. And began to pour. And in that pouring, in being in that moment, being heard and understood, was pivotal for her.
Yeah, she got it. She let go of
Yes,
it.
and she
processed.
really had none of those. The moments still were coming up,
Sure.
You know, that grieving of hers is still there. But she knew to come to me, climb in my lap right from the start,
Right.
and say, I'm so sad. Why did he do this? Why isn't he in my life?
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
you know, and 2 years later, 4 years later, 8 years later, she's grieving again. Now this is, and all my children do this, all children do this. They grieve as they grow from who they are then now.
Yes. To who they
So,
become.
right. So as a 16-year-old, you know, or 18-year-old or 20-year-old, my son are saying to me, what kind of music would we share now? You know, I'm
Right.
sad because there were so many things I'd want to talk to him about now.
Yeah, there's so many iterations later
Yes.
of who they've become since that time.
Yes, what kind of friends would we be?
Just curious, do you think that Demetrius, wherever Demetrius's spirit is, has an idea of who you guys are and from whence you've come, so to speak? Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I have a very strong sense
Yeah, that he's still
of
connected
him and
to
being connected and watching us and watching over us. And I believe too that he's doing his work too.
right.
That I don't think that there's, you know, they go into nothingness. And I know this is a personal
No, that's
opinion,
completely expressed. That's,
but I think that life is about layers.
Yeah.
And that the 9-year-old, profound as she is,
Right.
stood up at his funeral and said in the mic, I think that my brother's costume just became too tight
Wow.
and he has changed costumes.
Wow. I need a moment to just pause and reflect on that.
Yes. So if we're listening to the children, there are those pearls that come forward, and it might just be in a whisper. It might be in a bit of puppetry, or, you know,
Well,
making a doll talk,
right.
or
Thank you for addressing that, because
yes,
all too often when I'm in situations where I'm observing children who are in a situation that would warrant grieving, they're neglected. And I get
Yeah.
why. There's no judgment here.
Yeah.
I remember when my dad died, and you know, you discussing putting your shoes on. I remember thinking I don't know how to get dressed. I don't know how to put my pants on.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt
That's
that
real.
paralyzed. That's real.
That's real.
Listen, I hate to do this to you. I only have 60 seconds. It's that time. What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are that grief has a tremendous learning curve. And it's important that if you're going to get as much as you possibly can out of life and be the best person you can possibly be in life,
Right.
it brings depth with it. Grief brings a strength. If you're willing to lean in, learn about it, learn from it, notice it, it will bring a strength and a depth that you can't even
Begin to know.
comprehend
Yeah.
from where you might be
Right.
now listening to this and haven't had a loss yet. It's powerful stuff, but you have to be willing to give yourself a little leniency, patience.
Yeah, I love that you use lean in, because when you
Yes.
lean in, you can determine how far you lean in.
Exactly.
Listen, Tamara, I wish we had hours more. You're fascinating to me, and I'm so grateful to you, because we're
Thank
all
you.
going to lose the people we love at one
Yes,
time or
it's
another.
inevitable.
So you've given us
Exactly.
some great thoughts to think about. Thank you so much. I hope you'll stay here for a second and we can catch up on some things, folks.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. We've just concluded another episode of Health Matters. I'll be here in 2 weeks, 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Take care until then.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Health Matters with Dr. Nelson Bulmash, where we help you discover how to ignite your mind, body, and spirit connection. Join us next time when we will bring you more exciting guests and engaging topics. Meanwhile, feed your mind, exercise your body, and nurture your spirit. The United Intentions Foundation and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by the talk show hosts or their guests.
This is Tim.
And Maria from UI Media Network.
We both know what it's like to own your own business and needing to grow.
Building brand awareness, maximizing your visibility in the community, and reaching new customers is essential in keeping the doors open.
So in the spirit of 2019, we want to offer you a very special price at 50% off for commercial of your own.
So please call now and get on the calendar to get your commercial going for the new year.
So call UI Media Network at 678-495-4345. That's 678-495-4345.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Amy Dayries, a general and integrative dentist in Roswell, Georgia, and I'm also a spokesperson for the American Dental Association. You know, as a dentist, I tell my patients that the mouth is the window to one's overall health, just as the eyes are the window to one's soul. After working in general dentistry for the last 25 years, it has become my desire to offer good health resource information to everyone around me, empowering members of the public to become their best, healthiest selves. The Whole Healing Radio Show features practitioners from dentistry, healthcare, and nutrition about the cutting-edge techniques available. Together, my guests and I will show you how to implement lifestyle changes, achieve your personal goals for health, and heal the parts of you that may have been forgotten. When your health is intact, you can go on to manifest your ultimate dreams. Become the best version of yourself. Join me, Dr. Amy Dayries, on the Whole Healing Radio Show to learn how.